Okay, as David said, my name is Tim Grimm. I'm with Imaginit Technologies, one of the 4 Autodesk channel partners here in Seattle. And I'm an applications expert, which just means I'm a technical dude. So the good news is you're going to be spared a sales pitch today. I'm sure that you appreciate that. You'll notice that this slide here has RTC for the Revit Technology Conference. That's because I first gave this presentation last month in Phoenix at their annual North America event. And I just thought it would be valuable to repeat that here for the folks in Seattle. Did anyone make it out to RTC this year? Has anyone gone previously to the Revit Technology Conference? Quite a few, good. If you haven't, you know, what I always tell folks is if I had to choose between AU and RTC each year, I would choose RTC. I think the level of the presenters is uniformly high, even though they let me in this year. You know, the content's really great. Their social functions are really great. Their venues are always really good, although it was in Phoenix this year and it was hot, but that's okay. Most of the stuff was indoors. But if you haven't gotten out to RTC, you know, I definitely encourage that. It's a great conference for sure. Okay, so I have this blog called Revit Add-ons that I started about 5 years ago. And I started it when I was transitioning from Bentley BIM to Revit. And I did it for a couple reasons. I had done a lot of development for Bentley software, MicroStation, Bentley BIM and whatnot. And so I have a personal interest in that. And I thought, well, you know, the more I learn about Revit Add-ons, it's going to tell me a couple of things, being a new Revit user. One, it's going to tell me what is missing from the base product. Because, you know, if there are a bunch of, for example, if there are a bunch of Excel interoperability add-ins available, that tells us pretty quickly that that's something lacking in the base product. And the other thing is it also tells you what you can do through the API, and those are both a couple good things to know. So that was my motivation for starting the blog. And then after about a year, I started receiving about 500 page views a day, which kind of blew my mind. And then I realized that I had something. Nowadays, the site receives anywhere between 1,000 and 4,000 page views a day. So it's pretty popular out there. Now, I have a lot of posts. I just looked yesterday, and I have a little over 1,200 posts on the site about Revit add-in applications. And of those 1,200, if I find the free tag here, you'll see 450 of the posts or articles deal with add-ins that are free. So that's, you know, well over a third of the content deals with free add-ins. But the reason I put this session together is, you know, once you have this many posts, especially in the blog, which is essentially a role, that information gets pretty dense. And sure, people can find the content they're looking for using a Google Internet search, and that's where a lot of my traffic comes from. But I try to surface the information in different ways too. For instance, over here on the right sidebar, I have some badges that link to specific content. And for instance, I occasionally give out Editor's Choice Awards for add-ins that I think are particularly good or novel for some reason. And the most recent one was Ideate Apps, which is a new tool suite that Ideate Software released recently. And I'll talk more about that as I go through my presentation. But, you know, clicking on that badge, I can see the other ones. Auto-turn for Revit, which I didn't realize was available for Revit until very recently, just a couple days ago, in fact. But you get an idea. So I got to that by clicking on this award-winning badge here. I also do occasional product reviews. And then I do these weekly roundups. If you're familiar with the Autodesk App Store, I do a weekly roundup of new add-ins that are released through the App Store and add-ins that are updated through the App Store. So hopefully that helps folks to stay current with the add-ins that they've installed and that they care about. And then I also have a What's Hot, which is a monthly article where I look back at the number of page views that particular add-ins received for the month. and I post about that as well. But still I was trying to think about, okay, how can I surface content that a lot of folks will find of interest? And then I came up with this idea of highlighting essential add-ins. And these are add-ins that I think most Revit users would benefit from, or at least be interested in. And that was how I came up with this list of add-ins that I presented on at RTC, and I'll be presenting on here today. So the categories I'm going to talk about are some productivity tools, content management and browsing, Excel interoperability, project management and maintenance, transmittal and task automation, productivity suites, and human interface devices. Okay, and the first one that I'm going to highlight here is the Coins auto section box. And I do have I have many of the add-ins installed. The ones that are small and I can demonstrate quickly, I'm going to go ahead and show those. A few of the sort of broader applications, I'm going to go ahead and play videos for those. But I'm one of those brave souls that believes in, actually showing stuff live rather than a PowerPoint or canned videos as much as I can. But I will be covering a lot of content today. Now, by the way, before I do this, one thing I'll mention here is on the blog, if you go to my site, and by the way, the URL is rvtaddons.com, but if you go here and you search for Essential, sort by date, then right here is the post that I put up on the site about the session that I presented at RTC. So in other words, the stuff that you see today, you can go back to my website, just search for Essential, and you should find that pretty quickly. And the add-ins I'm going to cover with some level of detail are shown in this post, so you can go back and see those. Alrighty? So the Coins Auto section box is a free add-in, and it's quite popular. If you ever find lists on the internet about, what are your top 10 add-ins, let's say, it almost always is at the top. And in one of the recent versions of Revit, Autodesk added the ability to create these scope boxes or section boxes from an element selection, but it simply doesn't work as well as the Coins Auto section box does. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and grab some of these elements here in this floor plan, and I'm going to filter them down to just the furniture, planting, and site. Okay, so I have those elements selected now. And I'm going to go to the Add-ins tab and click on Auto Section Box. I have some options here. I can arrange the windows side by side. I can specify a buffer around the elements, and I can also name the view. I'll go ahead and click OK, and that creates the 3D view for me, which of course I can orbit. And one cool thing about the Coins tool is you can toggle the section box on and off. So I can quickly see within the context of the entire model, or I can toggle it back to what it was previously. Okay? So that's a nice little tool. And you'll see in the post here, I detail, why this tool, even though similar functionality is now in Revit, why this tool is superior to that, and hey, it's free. The next one is Isolate Warnings by a company called Archisoft Tools. And let me open up a different model here, one that I know has some problems in it. So here on the Add-ins tab, I have Isolate Warnings. Actually, let me go to this 3D view first. That's what this model looks like. It's sort of a residential model, I think. And if I go to Isolate Warnings, the first thing it tells me is that it reads an HTML report file that it says, first I must export the warnings to this report file, to an HTML file, okay? So if you haven't done that before, that's on the Manage tab, and it's over here under Warnings. Here's the warnings. I can go ahead and export these to an HTML file, and I'll just write that to out to my down, well, actually, let's put it on the desktop. Okay. So that's done. And then back here on the Add-ins tab, click OK through that. There's the HTML file that I just wrote out. And the tool does two things. It creates two 3D views. One is where it's overriding the warning elements. So that's the elements shown here in green have warnings associated with them. And it creates another 3D view called isolate warning elements. So if I go to that, these again are the elements that have warnings associated with them, and they're isolated in the view. So very quickly, you can see the elements that have problems in your model. That's what this tool is for. It's really pretty good. Here's my original 3D model, and then that one there. And that also is another free add-in. A lot of the add-ins I'm going to show are very, very focused for very specific tasks, and oftentimes those are free, which is great. A fellow by the name of Juan Osborne, I have a few of his add-ins featured here, and these he only released recently within the past couple of months. The first one's called Filter More. Okay, and this one is on its own tab. It's called Jot Tools. And Filter More is here. Now, one of the things that we can do is there is a pre-filter. So I can go in here and say, well, you know, I really only want to select doors, let's say. And I can pre-filter and drag a rectangle around the floor plan, and it's only selecting doors. Okay? You can choose whatever categories you want, and you can just drag and it'll pre-filter them. And when I'm done, I can go ahead and click Finish, and only those element types are selected. If I go down here, you'll see that only doors are selected. Okay. So that's one of the things you can do with it. You can do a pre-filter. Now, if I select an element and I go back here, there's also the Filter More tool, and I can go ahead and select the same category of elements. Expand that selection. Okay. Now that's not a big deal, you know, because we can get, well, actually, you can get the same type of doors pretty easily, but it's difficult to get all the doors like that. But you can drill down with those levels of detail here as well. In this case, I chose the category of doors, but I could have said, you know, the same family. That would be the same door type, in other words. But one of the cool things here is that, you know, I can then come in here and say, well, I want the host of those elements, and expand the selection. And that grabs the walls that the doors are hosted in. So that gives you an idea of how you can start expanding your selection with this Filter More tool. This, again, is another tool that's free. Now, it's interesting. When I was putting this list together, the add-ins being free was not one of my criteria. But almost all of them worked out to be free, so, which is a good thing. But this is there's much more to this tool, but that gives you sort of an idea of some of the things that we can do with it. And, you know, it's for free. It's really pretty great. CAD Tracer. This is probably my favorite that I'm going to show today. So, and what this is for converting CAD details to Revit details. Now, hopefully most of you know that there's a wrong way to do that and a right way to do it, right? The wrong way is to import the CAD file into your working Revit project and explode it. You know, hopefully we all know not to do that, but it seems like invariably, you know, that happens on our projects, right? And then the right way to do it is to import the CAD file into what I call a sacrificial project, right, which is just an empty project, explode it there, and then convert the lines to the standard Revit line types. And same thing for text and all that stuff. You can then export that detail view out to a file and import it into your real project. Now, the problem with that is, you know, what I found in my experience is, if the right way to do something is harder than the wrong way, folks are going to do it the wrong way, right? Because faster is better. So, you know, what really helps is we can take the right way and make it easier or better for the user, right? And that's what this CAD Tracer tool does. Let me show this to you real quick. I'm going to go ahead and create a new project, and I'll use the architectural template. And by the way, this one also is free. And I'm going to go to the View tab and create a new drafting view. And here I'm going to go ahead and note, I'm not even going to import the CAD file, I'm just going to link it. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and link the CAD file. There's one thing I want to change here. Now one thing that the add-in would do is it would place lines over these leaders and the arrowheads, but they wouldn't be something I would use in Revit, because I would use the Revit notes here. So what I'm going to do is just get rid of this. It's pinned. Yes, of course it is. There we go. And bring this back in. And for the layers, let me make this black and white too, because that's always clearer. The layers, I'll say specify. And then by specifying the layers, of course, I can come in here and find one called text and turn that off, and then I just don't get that. Okay, so on the Add-ins tab, where are you, my friend? There you are. Okay, it's right here, CAD Tracer. And I pick the link. And then this isn't a great example because there aren't a lot of layers in the CAD file, but as AutoCAD users, we're used to controlling the symbology of elements by placing them on specific layers, right? We use the bi-layer attributes or symbology. And so what this add-in does is say, okay, fine, these are the layers that are in the CAD file. What do you want them to look like in Revit? Okay? So I can come in here and I can say, well, I want the light lines to look like, I want to use the standard Revit thin lines line type. The hidden lines, I'm going to go ahead and use the standard hidden lines line type. And for heavy, I'm going to go ahead and make those medium lines. Okay? Now click Trace in Project. It says 88 lines were created. Get a hold of this link here. There you are. Okay, I want to get rid of this link. Don't die on me, baby. Hopefully this will be back in just a sec. There we go. Make sure I got rid of that. I think I did. I just wanted to delete that DWG file. So yeah, that's gone now. And you can see that the line work is now here in the Revit project. So we tell our users, probably most of us do, don't import CAD files, link them, right, as much as possible. But then we say, except when you want to convert a CAD detail, and then you use this process. The nice thing about this is you can always use the linking, right? And that CAD data is never actually written to the file. What the developer is doing here is he's simply tracing those lines with the add-in. So this is a free add-in. If you've ever gone through that process manually, it kind of sucks. So this is one of my favorites here. All right, so that's CAD Tracer. Now, content management and browsing, this is the first commercial add-in I'm showing. I think the best one out there is Unify, by Unify Labs. And I'll go ahead and play a little video for you here, but I'm going to kill my volume. This one's more detailed. So, what separates a content browser from a content management solution is, is a question. There are a lot of content browsers out there, or family browsers, but there are very few content management systems for Revit. So I'll talk more about that in a moment. So organize, you can have your families appear in this nice window. You can do Google-like searches to find your families, and then you can drag and drop and place them into your projects. Unify is cloud-based. You can even share specific content with external project team members. You can go in here, you can look at the analytics, you can see what content's being used the most, and that will help you to sort of focus your attention. Here they're showing how to share a library. So if you're working with a third party, you can choose to share, you don't have to share everything, you can share a portion of the library or stuff that you've moved out. It upgrades your content for you, so if you have a family in Revit 2014 and you load it into the Unify cloud, it automatically says, hey, you might need 15, 16, and 17 one day, so it just upgrades them, and those are immediately available. Here are the analytics, so you can see what your users are up to, and that can help you to focus on where to invest your time. Content request, so that's where a user's saying, hey, I want this family on the library, and then a BIM manager can go ahead and review that. So the difference between a content browsing solution and a content management solution is the approval process, right? In a content management solution, there should be an approver who says, yeah, that content is good, it's vested, it's available for our folks in the firm. And that's what Unify does for you in addition to the content browsing solution. And it's the only one that I know of that allows you to share portions of your library with third parties, which is pretty great. So that's Unify, highly recommended. There are some free alternatives out there. They're not content management solutions, though. They're simply browsers. And the one that I chose to highlight is one called Smart Browsers from a company called CAD. And if I go back here into Revit, and I go here on the T4R tab, this kind of bugs me. There's one tool on this tab. I kind of wish that the Autodesk folks never gave developers the ability to create their own tabs, because this is an example of why that can be bad. But let me go back into my other project here. And I'm going to get rid of this door and replace it with a pocket door, because I like a good pocket door. And so back here, this is Smart Browser free. This is the free add-in. And I'll go to Smart Family Browser. And here's the content that I had preloaded into my browser. Now when I choose a family, and where is my pocket door? Where are you, my friend? This one. Right here you can choose the family type that you want to use. I'm not sure that's the pocket door though. It might be. But here you can pick from the types that you want to go ahead and insert in the file. So maybe I want this to be a 36 by 80, let's say. And I can go ahead and load the type here, or I can drag and drop as well. You can also load the family, which will bring all the types in. So you have a choice over that. I'll go ahead and click Load Type. And I can go ahead and place that in the project. So there's my little pocket door. So Smart Browser, it's really pretty good, especially for a free add. For a free add-in, it's pretty great because there was obviously a lot of work that went into it. The one thing that I'll mention about this is it takes a long time for it to load the content because it scans your families, it creates these thumbnail images. It takes a long time. That may be a process if you want to use this product to kick off overnight. And so what I did was, wherever I feature a commercial add-in or for a pay add-in, I highlight a free alternative. But please understand that that doesn't mean they're a one-for-one comparison, right? It's some of the functionality. In this case, this is a browser versus a browser plus a content management solution, plus cloud collaboration, right? Okay, Excel interoperability. The commercial add-in that I'm featuring is from ID8 software, and that is their ID8 BIMLink. It's probably the gold standard of Excel interoperability add-ins. And if you haven't seen it before, I'm going to do a quick demo, but it's going to be pretty brief and just sort of surface level. But I'll show you some additional information after that as well. So if I go down here to schedules, I do have a little door schedule in the file, not too many rows here, and but I'm going to go ahead and get that out into Excel. So I'm going to go to the Add-ins tab, and I must compliment ID8. They're kind of a big wheel in Revit add-ins, and but their add-ins are still on the Add-ins tab. So I'll go here to BIMLink, and I'm using the trial version, so it just gave me a little message there. But I can create a new, what they call a link, and I can say, you know, I'm interested in doors. And then I can say, yeah, I want to go ahead and create a link for this door schedule. Okay? So it's successfully created the link. And I've got some options here, but I'm not going to worry about that. I'm just going to go and click Done. And then I'm going to go ahead and export this schedule to Excel. The trial is limiting me to 25 rows, but that's not a big deal either. And I'll just save this to my desktop. Okay. And if I go back here to the door schedule on Revit, you'll see that some of the frame materials are specified and some are not. But if I go here on my desktop and open up Excel, I can make those changes in Excel and bring them back into Revit. So here's the door schedule, and you know, they did a real nice job of formatting the spreadsheet. You know, the fields are gray that I can't edit. And that's sort of the level of care that you see with a very successful commercial product like Ideate BIMLink versus something that you'll get for free. And Excel is not responding. Don't know why. Let's kill it. This I haven't seen before, so I'm not sure what is going on there. But this time I'll try it a little different way. Start with Excel and open it up. Okay, so I'm going to say I want the rest of these to be aluminum. You know, and why would I want to do this in Excel? Well, because Excel is better for that kind of stuff. You know, Revit is so frustratingly close, right, to Excel-like Excel-like operations. The other reason, though, is you might have tasks that you want to pass off to folks who aren't Revit users, right? I mean, interns are wonderful for data input, right? And maybe you don't even have to train them on Revit. So, you know, those are reasons why you might want to do this here in Excel. So I've made those changes. I've saved it. Back here in Revit, I'm going to go to BIMLink. And, you know, the links I create are going to be shown here. I'll go ahead and select this one here, and I'll simply import from there. Yeah, I saw this problem before. Let's see if I run it again. It might work. Oh, you bugger. One sec, I'm just going to reopen that file. Live demos are exciting, aren't they? All right, so I'm back in the project here, and let me go back to Add-ins, BIMLink. And I've got to recreate this. I'm not sure what happened there, but something obviously was not right. I'll import that schedule. Now the cool thing about Ideate BIMLink here is it shows you in this preview image what's changed. The cells that are yellow, so you know, if you're concerned about quality control, you can see the changes that were made, and if there's something that you want to change in the model or not, and if so, you can go ahead and click import. Okay. And if I go back to that schedule, you'll see those changes have been made there. Now I'm going to do the same process with the free alternative. I highlight. So let me go ahead and close this file without saving. Okay, and the free alternative that I'm going to show is from a company called BIM1. They have an Excel export and import add-in that's free. And here I'll go to the BIM1 tab. Oh, that wasted space. And go here. And I can go ahead and export that same door schedule. Click export. Okay, it says it was successful. It went to my downloads folder here. Okay, and let me close this out. And I'll go and do the same thing in my downloads folder. Wow, Excel is being a pip. So here, notice the spreadsheet's not formatted as nicely as it was out of BIMLink, but you know the information's here. And again, I can go ahead and paste those up, like so, save that. All right. And then back here in Revit, well, before I do this, I should show you that the schedule hasn't been populated yet. All right, and here I'll import, browse out for that file. And let's see, downloads, that one there. Okay, it knows what it is. Import that. Okay, it says it was successful. And you can see that's been done here in Revit. Okay, so that's a free add-in. There's so many Excel interoperability add-ins. There's like a cottage industry of them out there. If I go back to my blog, and here in the tag cloud, if I find Excel, yeah, there are 78 related to Excel, or 79, I should say. So that's quite a few. But that may be the best free one that's available, at least in my opinion. However, I don't want to give Ideate short shrift here because that was a very simple thing to do, relatively speaking. And Ideate BIMLink does a lot more than that. So if I go over here to Ideate's website and I go to BIMLink, one of the cool things they do is they have videos here. That might not seem so cool, but you can filter them based upon use case. So you can say, well, I'm interested in use cases for architecture. And then as an example, there's a video here for automating pre-designed programming with rooms in Revit using Ideate BIMLink. So that gives you an idea that, Ideate BIMLink, you can do those sort of relatively simple tasks, but you can do much more complex things as well. And it's a commercial product for sale, so it's well supported, well documented. And I really don't mind that they're our competitor. Let's see. And then project management and maintenance, this category. The first one I have here is the work shared file notification by LASCAD. Boy, do I just flat out love this. So if I go to open a central file, I believe I might still have that one open. Let me close out of my files here. Okay, if I go to open a central file, of course I get the create new local down here, right? And of course we train our users to never ever touch that, right? Or bad things will happen. But if I uncheck that and I click open, with this little add-in, it catches that and says, hey, are you sure you want to do that? The problem at this point, though, is a user might not even read this and say, just freaking, right? Or they'll say, well, yeah, Yeah, I do. I want to open that file. I want to work, man. All right. But what you can do with the tool is it's configurable. And it's kind of archaic. It's in a little text file, but this is a free add-in. But I can go in here and I can say, disable open central file. The default is false, but I can come in here and say, well, you know what? I don't want my users to open the central file. And I can set that to true. Okay? That's right. So now when I go in here, and I did have to restart Revit for this change to take effect. That's why I closed out the program. So I've come back in here now, and I go to open that central file. Okay. And I uncheck Create New Local and say Open. It simply says you don't have permission. It's not going to let me do that. Yeah, it's really great, and it's a free add-in, and it solves a major problem, right? The other thing the add-in does for you is keeps local files from getting stale, okay? You know, one of the things that we tell users is don't let your local files get stale. And I always tell folks they shouldn't be older than a day. If they're a day older, replace them. Well, with this add-in, you can specify that. So this is for the local files. You can set the expiry in days. And you can allow the user to bypass that. Same with the central file. That's the default. It'll just give a message and say, your local file should be recreated. Are you sure you want to open it? And they can click yes. But you could come in here and say, allow bypass, set that to false, and then they won't be able to use a local file that's older than a day, or whatever you set the time to be. If you're not familiar with why that is, we had a support case very recently where a customer went on vacation for a couple weeks, came back, tried to synchronize his local file with the central, after a lot of folks have been working on it, and it corrupted the central file. Couldn't even edit it, from that point on. So that's a really bad thing to do. And the great thing about add-ins like this is, if we're telling people, don't do this, do that, the only way to really make that happen is to have tools that automate that process, really, to make that happen dependably, right? So this is a really good one. I like this. This one's from a company called LazCAD, and it also is free. That is work shared file notification. Okay. Transfer signal, you're really going to like this one too. This is by Juan Osborne. So let me open up this project, and I'll open up a couple other ones too. Open up this central file. And I'll create a new file from the architectural template. Okay, so I have a few files open now. And, one of the nice things about Revit is everything's self-contained, right? Everything's in the project, so you send an RVT file to somebody, it's going to look the same for them as it does for us, because it's all in that file. But then, of course, we need a method for moving stuff between files, like especially system families, walls that don't exist in separate family files. So, of course, on the Manage tab, we have, where are you, my friend? Transfer Project Standards, right? And the problem with Transfer Project Standards, there are a couple things I don't like about it. And one is that you have to select all the wall types, for instance, okay? And it's from, you're copying from a single project into your active project. That's the other thing. From one project into this one, and you have to get everything up from a category. Now, it will say, if types already exist in your current file, it'll give you the opportunity to overwrite those or not, okay? But you still might get types that you don't really want. So let me go back here to this one and show you, I have a wall type in here. see which ones are not in the other file, or files, I should say. Storefront 2, storefront curtain wall 1. I thought I had one that was clearer than that. So we'll say this exterior glazing one is the one that I want to move from this project into my other two projects that I have open, okay? So for this, I'm going to go to this JOT Tools or JO Tools tab. JO is Juan Osborne, the developer. And here I can transfer. I can do transfer single. Okay. And down here I can say I want to transfer these to my other two projects. So you could have half a dozen projects loaded and push this out to those other files. And then from this one, so it's collecting the categories now. And here I can go down to wall types and expand that and go to curtain wall. And then here I can say, you know, that's the wall type I want. I just want that one, right? And I want to push it to as many projects as I want. Okay? And I'll go ahead and click transfer single as soon as Revit starts responding. Okay, there was a conflict with the existing element, so I renamed that one, and that's fine. And so the standard's transferred to two files, okay, and that's correct. And if I go back to, I think I was in this one here, go to wall. Yeah, there's my wall type in that project now, okay. So with transfer single, you can be very strategic about what you want to move, and you can move it to, you know, many projects in one fell swoop. And the thing that the folks at RTC really liked is if I go back here to the JO tools and I go to transfer single, and I want to transfer from this project, so it's collecting categories, you can transfer legend views. So that would be under views, view, legend. There are my legend views. So if you have your nice legend views that you've created in one project, you can go ahead and copy those or push them out to your other projects as well. Okay. Again, this tool is free, great tool. That's transfer single. Workset creator, a lot of us probably don't use worksets much anymore, especially if you're in architecture, but where they really come into play a lot is in MEP, okay? Because you have different disciplines working in the same file, oftentimes. They use work sets to sort of make the information discrete, okay? The problem in Revit is you can't set work sets up in a template. It has to be in a work shared file, right? Which a template is not work shared. So what I'll do here, let's go back to this one. Let me go ahead and make this a central file. Say collaborate. Okay, now here if I go to work sets, you know, I've got the default 2 work sets, right? But I have, say, half a dozen more I want to create, or it's probably more than that. But I want to make sure that the spelling's correct and the naming is consistent and all that kind of good stuff. So that's where this add-in comes in. Here I can go to Workset Creator. And get from file, you might think, I have mine over in a text file, but get from file means if you have 2 Revit projects loaded, you want to get worksets from the other Revit project into your project, you can do that. But what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to go over to here where I have this text file, and I can grab all these. Okay. And then back here, I can paste from clipboard. Click Create Work Sets. Okay, that's done. And then if I go back to Collaborate Work Sets, then they're all in there. So yeah, more better, right? More better. Okay, so that's Work Set Creator by Juan Osborne. Like that one, free as well. The next category is Transmittal and Task Automation. And the first product I'm going to highlight is a commercial product for sale product. It's Imaginit Clarity by the company that I work for. And this one I have a video for you because it's pretty in-depth. Now, Clarity does a couple of things. One is it does, and there are 3 different flavors. Clarity Connect is if you're using Revit Server. And Clarity does a couple of things. It is task automation, so you can have it generate PDF files every night at 3 in the morning, or your DWG files, or you know, your typical exports. You can schedule those. You can schedule those functions. It's all done in a web browser interface. Okay, so here are the export tasks, you know, PDF, DWG, all that kind of good stuff. It's more than that, though. There are other add-ins that do that, but what I think, and that's good, but the other thing Clarity does is it democratizes the BIM data. It pulls the BIM data into formats that other users can use, other folks who aren't Revit users, let's say. So if I go back here just a minute, this is kind of the home page. These are the projects. This is the web browser, drilling into a project. Here looking at the tasks, setting up a task. You can come in here and say, do you want to create your PDF files, create a new task. And then you have options for how to create the PDF files, which you'll be familiar with from Revit. It's set up to be the same. So simply specifying those settings. That's like watching paint dry. This will be over in a sec. And you can run this against more than one project, too. You can create a task that processes multiple projects. Here they're scheduling the days and the time, 3 in the morning, Monday through Friday. Okay, so that's how you create a task in Clarity. And then here, liberating BIM information. This is all about pulling information from the Revit database into the Clarity database and then presenting that through a web interface. So if you think about folks like project managers, partners in firms, they can still have the BIM information available at their fingertips even if they're not Revit users. So here they're going to a room schedule, and you can see that here's the schedule presented in a web interface. You know, the great thing about this for those folks is they don't have to go to a Revit savvy person and say, hey, print, you know, the room schedule for me. And there's a pull process, so they can click a little link and it'll make sure that's current, synced with the central file. Okay. Here they're simply showing that you can reorganize these by dragging the headers around, and you can group them and sort them and all that kind of good stuff. Here they're showing a diagram of the rooms, color coding by departments. Okay, these are data sheets, so this is a room data sheet. See all the information that the user can pull out from the BIM model and have access to all that information. Here they're clicking on a family. So you can see the information that's available on that family that's being used in that room, that piece of furniture. And there is a bidirectional data update. So again, you could have someone working on the schedules through Clarity and then pushing those back to Revit. And you'll see here in the video that there's an approval process in Revit. The Revit user can choose to accept those or not. Okay, so this is the room finish schedule. And you can go in here and specify the base finish, ceiling finish, all that kind of good stuff. Whatever you might want to do here in the schedule. And then back here in Revit, there's a change request that is sent to the Revit user, and the Revit user can either accept the changes or reject them. So the model is now up to date. And here they've selected the room, scroll down, and you'll see the information that was populated over in Clarity is now in Revit. There's also a viewer in here, 3D viewer of the BIM model. So again, you know, really good for your non-Revit users. They can get in here and look at the 3D model. They can, and this feature I really like is you can go to any room in the model, and it will take you to that perspective view. And again, if you think about this from the standpoint of non-Revit users, I mean, it's tremendous. And oftentimes, you know, these folks who are not Revit users are some of the most important people in our firms, you know, the project managers, the partners, right? And for them to have the information at their fingertips without having to learn a product like Revit, I think is really pretty powerful. So like Ideate, we at Imaginit do develop add-in applications, and Clarity is our flagship product. So if you'd like a demo of that, go to Imaginit.com or drop me a line. We'll hook you right up. It's really, it's pretty amazing the things that you can do with it. So that was Clarity. Let's see. And then ETransmit by Autodesk. The main thing I want to show here, and hopefully everyone's familiar with ETransmit, but I have to close out of my files. So transmittal model, this is ETransmit. And the main thing I want to show here is that you have cleanup options when you're transmitting a file. And if you've never used ETransmit before, what it essentially does is it takes a central model and it puts it in kind of a neutral state so that when you deliver it to someone else, if they open that file, tell them, hey, this used to be a central file. Do you want to make it a central file? And they click yes, and it's a central file. But what you can also do is you can do upgrades and you can do cleanups. So heaven forbid you're working on Revit 2015 and your partner's working on 2016, you could upgrade to 2016 as the part of the transmittal process. We would not recommend that. But you can do some other things here. You can disable work sets, which means make it so it's not a work shared file. You can purge the unused elements. And then you have some choices down here over what you want to do with the views. You can include all sheets and views on sheets and selected view types. So you could say views on sheets and 3D views. Or you could say, you know, only include the views that are on sheets, or you could include all the views. You can also come down here, you can remove all sheets, but include selected view types. Those might be, you know, floor plans or 3D views. But the idea here is if you're sending out your model to a consultant, let's say you're an architect and you're sending your model out to your structural consultant, you can strip a lot of stuff out because what they want is your model linked into their model. They don't care about your views. They don't care about your sheets, right? If you strip all that stuff out as part of the transmittal process, it'll make your file much lighter and much easier for them to use. Okay? So that's ETransmit. This is a subscription entitlement. So if you're on subscription with Autodesk, you can get this add-in as part of your subscription. Now, productivity suites, there are a lot of them out there. I've mentioned Ideate. I don't show this here, but PPI, which is another reseller here in town, they have what they call the PPI briefcase, and it is actually a rebranded version of the CGS Plus Revit tools. It's really excellent, and they include it to their subscription customers at no additional charge. So although I didn't include that here, it's actually really quite a good product. The commercial product that I highlighted is the BIM Project Suite by CTC, the CAD Technology Center. And the reason I like it, and let's see, Revit Express Tools, there we are. All right, this one I have to open a file. The thing I really like about the CAD Technology Center tools is that they have, even if you're not a paid user, some of the tools are free. So you don't have to actually buy the suite to use it. So if I go to the tools here, over on the left is free tools, and these are the free tools that are provided. I was a little surprised when I looked at this that they provide what they call BIMList, which is their family browser. They provide that for free. Okay? And some other things here that are pretty nice to have too. But it's a very nice tool suite. And if we go to the CAD Technology Center website, which I thought I had up, let's see, CTC Express Tools. They have these other suites too. They have the BIM Project Suite, BIM Manager Suite, and they're rolling out some new ones. BIM Data Suite and BIM Batch Suite are both pretty new. I'm not sure about these latter two, but BIM Manager Suite also has some free tools that are very useful. So that's the thing I like about it. You know, it's one install. You can choose to purchase or not. If you choose not to purchase, you can still use some of the tools for free, and they're really quite good tools. So that is a good product. And then I also included bonus tools by Kiwi Codes. Kiwi Codes, you can probably tell from the name, is a developer out of New Zealand. And not a lot of people live in New Zealand. And the reason I mention that is I had the pleasure of talking to one of the folks who works, one of the developers in Kiwi Codes, and he told me that, and he was not joking, he's a sheep herder by day and a programmer by night. But Kiwi Codes bonus tools they're almost up to 100 tools in Kiwi Codes bonus tools, and it's bargain priced. It's almost 100 tools for $35, right? So from a value perspective, you just can't beat that. And then a new one I included, I didn't include this one at RTC, but I am including it here. I didn't include it at RTC because it hadn't been launched yet. In fact, I learned about it at RTC, and that's Ideate's new Ideate apps. And it solves a couple of problems quite nicely. Of course, I had to create a problem first. So, you know, is there anything more bothersome in Revit than drawing something and then getting this message? You know, warning, none of the elements are visible in the view. You know, and then, of course, what I always hope is, you know, please let it just be the category. You know, and if it's not the category, please let it just be hidden in the view. Because after that, it gets complicated, right? In fact, I looked up a blog post from Steve Stafford of Revit Op-Ed, and you know, these are all the things, all the reasons why something could not appear in a view. So I think it's like 55 reasons. And like I say, once you get past the first two, it gets complicated, right? And we don't really want to deal with those. So that's a common problem. And in Ideate apps, they've come up with a solution which is called X-ray, okay? And what I'll do, if I go to a different floor one floor plan here, let's see, this one here probably has the grids I find that element that I just placed that wasn't showing up in my other view. I can go back here and go to X-ray. And here, so show me the grid I have selected, and the target view is the view I'm in. Okay, that's when I want to figure out what's going on there. I'll click Find Element. So it's scanning all the things that could be wrong. It's coming back. So why is this invisible? Well, it's hidden by category. Okay? And some of these things, we can say, well, fix it. Damn it. Right? And, okay. And sure enough, it fixed it. All right. But there are some things that wouldn't fix, like if it was outside the crop region, but at least it would tell you that. It's outside of the crop region, right? That's the reason why you can't see it. Or it's outside of the view range. That's the reason you can't see it. Okay? Love that. I mean, it solves a common problem, right? The piece of feedback I had for the ID8 folks at RTC was what would be better is when I draw this thing and I get that message, capture that element ID and tell me why it's not visible. In other words, don't make me go through the additional steps of finding it, selecting it, going back to the view. And they thought that was a very good idea. So hopefully that'll be in an upcoming release. And we actually have the ability to do that through the API, so that would be pretty great. And then the other tool that I really, really like here in the new ID8 apps tool suite is a Smart Delete. So, you're working in Revit. Common problem, user deletes something and they're not thinking about all the elements that are hosted to it that maybe they can't see in the view that are going to be deleted as well. This tool attempts to prevent problems like that. If I select, I'm just going to do a simple example. If I select this wall and I go back here and I choose Smart Delete, then what this add-in does is it tells me, okay, for this object, these are your dependent elements. There's a door tag, a wall tag, and a single flush door. So if I delete that wall, those things are going to be deleted as well. So that's what Smart Delete does. It collects the dependencies, and so you can see what they are before you take that action. Okay? Both of those I like a ton. So that's the reason why I added that to the Essentials list. Next, a free alternative for a tool suite is the BIM1 and Case apps. So this one is actually a separate program, BIM1 Add-ins Manager. BIM1 is a Canadian company, and their flagship product is called BIMTrack, which is this one right here. It's a commercial product. These next 5 or 6 add-ins were developed by BIM1, and they're pretty great. I showed one of them earlier, their Excel export and import, but they have other ones too, like a Clash Sphere Generator. What that will do is it will take your clashes from Navisworks and place spheres in Revit around clashes so you can visualize them in Revit. Pretty hip. One of these, I think that one used to be a commercial product and they made it free. And then down here are a bunch of Case add-ins. Case was a company that was absorbed by another company, and they're not developing add-ins anymore, so they release their add-ins as open source. Well, BIM1 went ahead and folded that into their BIM1's add-ins manager. So under BIMTrack, from this one all the way down to the bottom, those are all free. Okay. And they do some really good stuff too. So that is the free alternative that I highlighted. Okay. And then human interface devices. I'm a big fan of 3D connection. And let me start at the bottom here. So the first thing is their CAD mouse, which I'm actually using right now, and it's really pretty great. The thing that impresses me most about the 3D connection devices is the software is adaptive based upon what program you're in. So I'm in Word, and there's I forget what they call these offhand, but there's a button here for a menu, okay? And I can go ahead and choose an action. So if I'm first, I've got to change it to something else. You can see the effect. All right. So the 3D connection software knows I'm in Word. When I press the little menu button here, I get options for Word. So if I swipe through this bottom one, that's going to zoom me to 100%. Don't make a liar out of me now. I don't know, why didn't it change? Oh, bugger. Well, let me show you a different example. All right. Click that, copy. Click here, paste. And it takes a little getting used to, but the way the menu works is you don't have to go over here and click on this. You just swipe through it, which is pretty hip. And then if I go back to Revit, then of course I get different options in Revit. For instance, fit is right there. It might be because I'm touching on some of the other ones. Here, let's see, shaded model display. Let's go to a 3D view. So there's a wireframe display. I got that just by swiping left. If I swipe right, it's going to be the shaded display, as an example. But that menu is customizable, and it's adaptive for each, probably pretty much all the software applications folks are going to use, the Adobe products, Internet Explorer, Chrome, all that good stuff. And plus I have a bunch of extra buttons here, which is I like. So if I go here to their website and go to products, I want to give you an idea what the CAD mouse costs. I think maybe I put that in my handout. Yeah, $99 for the CAD mouse. Okay. And then this device I have also, I don't have it with me, but this is their Space Mouse Pro. And what it does is there's the puck, which if you've seen a 3D connection device, this is what most folks see, and they actually make devices that just have the puck. And oftentimes, if you've seen these in college, that's what they have. It's just the puck. And, you know, what can you do with the puck? Well, in a 3D model, you can orbit and fit and all that kind of good stuff. But in a 2D view in Revit, you can also use it to fit. And you can pull to zoom out, push to zoom in, pan, all that kind of good stuff. But the great thing about the Space Mouse Pro is all the buttons around it, right? There's one of these buttons here is fit. There are these 4 function buttons that you can program. And the Space Mouse Pro is intended to be an offhand device, so mouse and right hand for me, Space Mouse Pro on left hand. So rather than your left hand just mashing the escape key all day, you can do a bunch of stuff with it, right? And it's hard to describe how beneficial this is. It's, for me, it was transformational, you know, just love it, love that device. $299 is MSRP for that one. And then they just came out with a new flagship product, this Space Mouse Enterprise. And what Space Mouse Enterprise does that's different, let's go to 3D mouse here. And I haven't gotten a review model of it yet. But if you look here, it might be a little hard for you to see. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay. So it has these 12 function keys across the top of the device. And when you switch to a different application, the menu changes, right? So it's switching right now between Inventor and SolidWorks. Right? Now, it's not touch screen, but the nice thing about that is you got your left hand over there. You can see what each one of these function buttons does because it has a little tool icon in the display. That's the primary difference on the Space Mouse Enterprise. There's the screen right there. Pretty sweet. $359. Really wonderful devices, really well manufactured. If you haven't test-driven one of these, you know, maybe someone in your firm has them, and you can do that. The industrial design is wonderful. The build quality is great. They may seem a little pricey, but it's because they're made with care. You know. All right, and that, I believe, was that. Okay. And so back here on my blog, yeah, it's Revit Add-ons. If you search for Tim Grimm, Revit Add-ons, you'll find me. If you search for any add-in for Revit, you'll probably find me within the first couple of hits. But again, to find the information that I discussed today, you can go to the website and just here in the search field at the top, search for Essential. and it's going to be one of those top hits. It was the second hit for me. Okay, so you can find that information there. All right, let me go back to my PowerPoint because I just want to show you that I only have 2 slides. The second one is questions. Thanks. Thank you. So are there any questions, David? I just want to mention I really nailed the time, didn't I? I actually wasn't looking at the clock either. Yeah, you know, the problem is, like I say, I wish Autodesk had never given developers the ability to make their own tabs. Because even with just the stuff that I showed today, that's really all the add-ins I have loaded. But that gave me like, 8 additional tabs. And I hate these ones that you go to and there's this one thing on there. That really bugs me. I think that there's a real opportunity out there for an add-in to manage add-ins. I mean, if you think about it, what if the user had the ability to say, well, I don't want these on separate tabs, put them on one tab, and these 3 tools, I only use one of those, get rid of the other 2, right? And have the ability to organize that. Now, I don't know if that's possible through the API or not, but I think that would be a really good thing to do. The other part of that, though, David, is the managing revisions, right, and releases. You get these add-ins, and then the problem for the BIM manager is they have to stay current on, when new releases are available. They want to go to, say, Revit 2018, but this add-in is really key for the staff. You've got to wait till that one's released. Yeah, there's a lot of overhead involved with that. There are a few companies that have done a good job of sort of rationalizing that. One nice thing here about BIM 1, their Addons manager, although it's a separate application, I showed this earlier, I won't bother to log in again, but it'll show you if there are new releases here. AutoCAD has a very similar thing, so you have one control panel to go to and you can see if there's a new release available or not. That can be helpful, but from the standpoint of managing a dozen disparate add-ins from a dozen different developers, there's not an easy button for that right now. It's challenging. Any other questions?